Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Substack.
Good to see you. It's the FiveStack on Substack with Dean and Zev, or Zev and Dean, depending on how important you want to feel today. Because I don't care. I'm good.
You are the most
I'm
important one here, without any doubt. Is that a shirt or is it a vest?
It's you know what it is. It's one of those shirts that you wear to kind of brighten your day. It's a little. I got a little luau, but it's also black. You got some flowers on it. I needed to pick myself up today when it came to my choice of clothes because I knew today was going to be a struggle, Zev. It's like the big. I don't
Mondays
know
are
that there's
struggle.
been a bigger. Well, yeah, struggle bus Monday.
Yeah.
Because of the rhetoric and things we're going to talk about today. It has been a day. I'm glad I wore this shirt to pep me up. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, you look happier than you are.
Every time I look at you, you pep me up, so that's good too. Top 5 stories of the day. Let's start at number 5, and the number 5 story of the day is all about having been quite content and quite successful at wrecking the relationship with Ukraine and all of Europe, and also Canada and China and Mexico, you name it. Now Donald Trump feels like he's going to wreck the economy by introducing these tariffs against Canada and Mexico, which began already today, I think. And now Canada will retaliate, Mexico will retaliate. And you know what? The people who will suffer the most is the American public, because as it turns out, all of that has a terrible effect on the economy. And we knew this, of course, going in, but the stock market did a terrible dive at the start of today. At the end of today's trading, and on the announcement that the tariffs were being introduced, and I don't have those slides ready right now, but I can assure you they went down. So the tariffs are not good news for the American consumer, but they're also going to be faced with retaliatory sanctions, and you know about those. So tell us a little bit more about those.
Yeah, and to kind of put a little bow on your Dow Jones, NASDAQ, how did the markets do? Extreme fear drove the markets today. Had a scheduled fear rating of 10 or something. It was terrible. Pre-market it was down 754 points. The Dow. It opened minus 120, closed just over 700 points down. Lost 2-3% of America's wealth today on the announcement that Donald Trump was going to institute 25% across the board tariffs on Mexico and Canada for no fucking specific reason, but there is a reason, and I'll get to that in just a second. Canada's response today was really interesting, and I liked it. Melanie Joly came out and said, hey, by the way, we're going to hit you back harder. 155 billion worth of U.S. goods coming into Canada immediately the second those tariffs in the United States go into effect. Canada slaps 25% on everything that comes in. But we've got a special carve out for energy and steel because, as you know, America loves a couple of things that Canada makes and needs three things.
What do they need?
Actually, 4. But here's what they really need. They need steel for their their building and their defense machinery and defense contracts. They need a lot of it. They get 60% of it from Quebec alone, 80% from Canada. So there's that. They get 60% of their softwood lumber to build homes, high California, from Canada. They get 80% of their energy from us, 60 and 80, I believe, natural gas, which is LNG, and of course, crude oil or bitumen. There's that. And then they're going to kill all the refineries. All the refineries down there, they refine our oil. We don't have the capacity to do it. We started to deal with them decades ago to take all that sweet crude out. They refine it, send it back to us. We use it or we sell it. So they're going to hit them with that. But the one that makes me laugh the hardest is all the eastern seaboard states. Canada and Doug Ford today said, which, take him for what he's worth because he's a piece of shit too. He's like fatter Trump. One of the things he said, which was fascinating, he's like, I'm going to turn off the lights to New York and Michigan with a smile on my face. So not only are you going to see non-tariff related retaliatory measures like turning things off for the United States, you're going to see everything from orange juice to aluminum get tariffed at more than we are being tariffed, 25% across the board. And listen, there are Canadians today that are sitting there shitting their pants. And we need to be mindful of that because a lot of people in the car industry are going to lose their minds, lose their jobs. But more people in the United States, and I do feel for those people as well, because they're not all MAG Americans. 71 million people voted for this stooge, but they all are American and they've all been our friends and they're all subject to the same whiplash that we're subject to. And they are going to chart, I believe, at about minus 2.8% in terms of the wipeout off their GDP over the next 2 to 3 months. So that's 3%. and they're not just, this isn't depression this isn't, sorry, this isn't, what do you call it? This isn't like recession territory. This is depression territory. All because this guy wants to be the big swinging dick in the cracker factory, and he wants to give his military complex and people in America the excuse to invade Mexico, which he announced. Pete Hegseth said they might invade Mexico today. And then, to forcibly take over Canada. That's what these tariffs are about. They're not about money. They're about telling everybody in the United States, look at what Canada did to you. Look at how poor we are becoming. We need to invade Canada. And I can tell you this much. That is very much next, sir.
It could be. It could be. I mean, we'll talk about the King and Justin Trudeau a little later on, but just talking about that GDP number, this is the Atlanta Fed. These guys are very good amongst the key Fed groups that does the analysis and the predictions of where the GDP is going. They are now saying that the Q1 2025 GDP will be minus 2.8% for the United States. Now, they're outliers, but they're very, very good analysts. And,
is that bad?
It's pretty bad. I mean, they were forecasting a 2.8 positive, and now they're 2.8 negative. I mean, this is pretty bad. This is look at that chart. That chart just like
that's 6 points off your GDP. That's 6 points off your GDP when you look at the swing, and according to the projections of what they thought it was, which is 2.8, and now it's like minus 2.8. That is 6 gross domestic product points.
Yeah,
that is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars they lost today.
And he just keeps going. I mean, it's not going to stop now. He's going to introduce tariffs now. He's going to introduce these cuts to the Fed. There's still a lot of jobs that are being cut. There is a lot of downward momentum going on before we can see an upside to the American economy. And they're just happy to ship these jobs to everywhere else. I mean, it seems okay that they don't care. I don't think American investment is going to return to the United States the way Donald Trump thinks it's going to return based on these tariffs. But in the meantime, Americans are going to suffer. This is the era of like the $15, dozen eggs that we're talking about here. This is a ridiculous era that we're in. And none of this is going to help the average consumer in America do anything on any given day.
Hey, can I just do a little postscript on the eggs? The United States Border Security Service used 4,000 kilograms of eggs at the border because Canada sent some eggs down there because they're having a hard time finding eggs because of the bird flu, right?
Yeah.
And they actually, because Canada charged too much for them, because we price gouge too when we have to. They seized like a bunch of eggs at the border.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. So that's the new fentanyl, eggs.
It is. I mean, it's getting like that. Pricing is so high on it. Okay, so let's look at number 4. Number 4 on our chart here, and I am missing some of my key slides here today, so we're going to wing it a little bit. The big story last Friday, and who could miss it, was this ridiculous dressing down that Donald Trump did of Vladimir Zelensky at the Oval Office. It was embarrassing to say the least. We've spoken about it, but it's continued. The spat continues. Vladimir Zelensky went around Europe on the weekend, gaining a lot of support and respect from a lot of European leaders and others. But today, Donald Trump could not resist another dig at Zelensky. He tweeted this, or a truth to this. I'm not sure what the expression would be. This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky. The statement being that that peace with Russia or an end to the war is very, very far away. That's what Zelensky said. Trump said it was the worst thing that Zelensky could have said. And then he says, it is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want to, I can't even read that. Sorry, it's so small on my thing here. But essentially, let me read on my big screen here.
It's how he writes it too, Zev. It's how he writes it.
Yes, it is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing and Europe. In the meantime, they had, with Zelensky, stated flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of showing strength against Russia. What are they thinking? Oh, wow, that's where he speaks, eh? So he comes out digging against Zelensky. Zelensky obviously still wants this mineral deal. He doesn't want the mineral deal that Putin wants, but he wants the mineral deal. So he's going to try to save face a little bit, I think, with Trump. But boy, what a mess for America on the world stage.
Yeah. Nightmare, really. And it depends on who you ask, but over the past couple of days since that whole debacle in the Oval Office, something that you've noticed, something I've noticed, something that a lot of pundits have, which has been interesting, is the lengths that Donald Trump and Tuberville and Elon and Stefanik and Rubio and Gates and Junior, Cokehead Junior, everybody around him has gone to talk about one thing and one thing only: disrespect. That Zelensky disrespected the United States. And when you pressed any of those people on what that disrespect was, it came down to what JD Vance was asking for, which was a thank you. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're doing the right thing for humanity, you don't necessarily need a fucking thank you. Number one.
Right.
Okay. There's that. Just happy that you did the right thing. You saved a bunch of lives. You're not looking for a fucking thank you. You know what you're looking for? To win the war. So there's that. The other thing that I found really fucking interesting about that is that in no way does Volodymyr Zelensky want this war at all. Never did, never has. He's been begging for help from the international community for years. He's been arming people with drones. They've been throwing mud, sticks, anything they can to stop the Russians. They invaded his airport. They made their way to the presidential palace, for sakes. Like, they have been trying for 3 years to get these rapists, kidnappers, murderers, and genocidal orcs out of their country. And every single person that chastises that man, like Donald Trump did, like all those dumb fucking rich white guys did when they were standing behind him, well, why aren't you wearing a suit? And they all started laughing. Every single one of those guys is driving a result for the only person who never gets mentioned in any pejorative, and that's Vladimir Putin, who invaded that country, who got all of his Spetsnaz guys to rape young girls and women in basements of libraries in Bucha and Irpin and the outskirts of Kyiv and Donetsk. I mean, it has been going in Kharkiv, in Zaporizhia. It's mind-blowing to me that we're even fucking having this conversation.
Mhm.
And the reason why it's mind-blowing to me is because we all seem to motor past that one point, which I thought was really succinct. And Justin Trudeau said it today, and maybe one of the greatest speeches I've ever seen him give. Russia illegally invaded Ukraine, and they have been attacking Ukraine, raping, murdering, kidnapping Ukrainian children to the tune of 40,000 people for the last 3 years. And you guys are calling him a warmonger. Trump put out a post that said Zelensky doesn't want peace and needs to be on his terms. We know what those terms are, Zev. Those terms are surrender. Surrender to Vladimir Putin. Give him what he wants. Shut the fuck up. Or we're going to change regime in Kyiv. We're going to get rid of you.
You said it pretty well.
That's where we sit.
You said it pretty well, but here's actual Justin Trudeau saying.
And we could see an end to this war tomorrow if Russia decided to stop its illegal invasion of Ukraine. On Friday in the Oval Office, President Zelensky pointed out, so many words, that Vladimir Putin is a liar and a criminal and cannot be trusted to keep his word in any way, shape, or form, because he has demonstrated time and time again that he will break any agreements. I stand with Vladimir Zelensky, and I stand with the people of Ukraine.
I mean, that's the point, really. I mean, Vladimir Putin is not to be trusted. There's nothing that we can't trust in this man. Everything he's set up to now has been a complete lie. And any agreement we make is either going to be completely one-sided towards him or tilted towards him, or it's not going to be enforceable unless there are mass security guarantees for the people of Ukraine and Ukraine itself. We need to see a NATO membership at least, or something like that. We're not probably going to see it, but something like a security guarantee that gives them the benefit of the doubt here, because at the end of the day, Putin will come right back in there. He's got no intention of just taking that part of Ukraine. He'd love to take the whole of Ukraine. He's tried to do it before. So we've learned this. You know, history has a way of teaching us this. We know what dictators do. We know what autocrats who are like war hungry do. They tend to sneak in a little bit. They take a little bit of territory, then they make an agreement, and then they break that agreement over and over again. History is not quiet on that point, and we should not be thinking it's going to be any different now with Vladimir Putin. We need to make sure the entire world guarantees that Putin does not get away with this next stage.
You know, and the really sad part is that he's on his last legs. Like they're using fucking donkeys on the front lines. That country is broke. They have more conditions.
Yeah.
They're borrowing Koreans for cannon fodder. Like, you know, that's really the shame of this whole thing. To your point, is that the free world knows that Vladimir Zelensky or Vladimir Putin is a liar. The free world knows that he makes agreements, goes back on him. 2019 sent ceasefire Zelensky in Ukraine. Ceasefire, it's all good. We just want the parts that we stole. And Zelensky's like, we can't fight you, so go ahead and take them. They arm until 2022 when they get invaded. Here we are today, right? This is like, and it happened in 2014. It happened again in 2019. It happened in 2008, where they tried to soft coup. Ukraine's been at war with this piece of shit, and he's a piece of shit for almost 20 years. This is what people don't realize. To your point, those incremental gains, those little lies, those ceasefires, those agreements, the diplomacy, nothing means anything to him. Absolutely fucking nothing. And Trudeau nailed it. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Little buyer's remorse for a country that shoved him overboard over the past months.
We're going to get to that topic. You wait on that topic. I've got an ending on that one. So hang on that. Hey, thanks to everyone who's joined in the chat, who's watching on Substack Live. This is the FiveStack, and it's live with Dean Blundell and Zev Shalev here. Someone on the chat is asking, will we force Zelensky out? And I think the answer is we're going to try. Donald Trump today said that Zelensky's not going to be around for very long. I don't know what that means, whether he'll make it a condition of any deal or whether he's just playing, negotiating, because 2 weeks ago he called him a dictator and then regretted saying that. But, as it stands now,
to be fair, he said he didn't remember saying it.
Of course, it's how convenient.
He said it like 80 times. Yeah.
But what's going to happen next? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to kind of put a small little postscript on something that you said. Because it's worth saying, what does he want Zelensky out? I don't know if you remember towards the end of Trump's first presidency, when he was in at 45, when he tried to tell Zelensky he had to make a lie about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
And Zelensky's like, I don't speak English. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he stayed quiet and he didn't do anything. And and this was an end run by Russia. This was an end run by the United States. Donald Trump is still angry about that. Donald Trump is still angry that Volodymyr Zelensky didn't suck his nuts over the whole Biden thing. Like he really is. And so what you're seeing is a repatriation of that resentment, but you're also seeing Putin's game plan go to work, which is how do we get this guy out? Because he's got now, I don't know if you saw the recent polls, it's not 57%. He's got like a 74% approval rating in Ukraine. He's not going anywhere if the Ukrainian people specifically, and Trump did that. I mean, Trump did that did Canada, where he changed the fortune of the Liberal Party of Canada, and he did it to Zelensky. So you kind of got to thank him for it a little bit.
But to your point, I think, the reason why Trump wants Zelensky to go is because Putin wants him to go. And this White House is just parroting anything the Kremlin wants to hear. It's over and over again. There was an incredible statement from Peskov over the weekend that said, there's some sort of alignment. What's the exact words? I can't remember it right now, but here we go. This new administration is rapidly changing all foreign policy configurations. This largely coincides with our vision, said Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. I mean, this is a statement you never want to hear if you're an American. And or anybody really around the world. This is a very tragic statement that came out, but it's so true. It's so obvious, and we know it's so true that everything that this man says now, Donald Trump, is going to sound and look like it's coming directly from the Kremlin. They don't even need a spokesperson. They should fire Dmitry Peskov because Donald Trump is doing all the speaking for them in every one of his moves. And, it's about time we American people realize that it's been a long time since many of us journalists have been arguing this very, very point. Should we get on to number 3? We've been talking a lot about this.
Please. Yes.
Number 3 is, so we're staying with the Trump administration because it is such an interesting story. So, Elon Musk's DOGE. Do you see the skit on Saturday Night Live, the cold open?
First of all, Shane Gillis should host Saturday Night Live every single week. I don't know if you saw the Couple of Beers skit, but that was incredible. The DOGE skit with Mike Myers was absolutely lights out. It was so good. And Elon commented on it after. He's like, I didn't like that. I'm like, yeah, well, no shit.
Well, screw you, Elon. The rest of the country, the ratings must have been through the roof for SNL. I mean, that was a really good open. I'm glad to see Mike Myers making a return to SNL. Now, apparently, in addition to the fact that he's already cut programs at USAID, which include nutritional programs that we can now say officially, according to some officials, is actually killing children. So at USAID, there was programs that were helping feed the many poor people of the world. And now he's cut those programs. So children are literally dying because the richest man of the world in the world has been cutting all these USAID programs. It's despicable stuff, but it's actual truth now, according to aid workers. Now, having done that, he's going to move on to cutting Social Security staff by 50%, by as much as 50%. The current orders are to start with 7, but they're thinking of 50% cut in Social Security. If anyone's ever had to phone Social Security in the United States, you'll know that the average wait time is already 8 hours. About the whole day you got to spend on the phone waiting for them. With this much of a cut coming to Social Security, it will take days, I don't know, weeks to get anything through Social Security. So in effect, what they're doing by cutting the staff at Social Security is they're going to be cutting the Social Security benefits because less people can apply, less people get approved. They just slow down the whole system. Guess what, America? Your Social Security insurance scheme, which you've been paying in for many, many years as workers, is about to be cut drastically, just in effect, by Elon Musk and company. But here's the kicker on Elon Musk. Remember, he promised us $2 trillion in cuts. Then he revised that down. He said, hey, we'll say maybe we can save $1 trillion in cuts. Then he said, maybe it'll be 100 billion. Now, the actual reality of what he successfully cut is that, last week, if you believe the numbers last week, he said that they were going to cut that they have successfully cut $16 billion from the budget, 16. Then they revised it down a few days later to $14 billion. And now they've realized they made a whole bunch of mistakes and they've put a bunch of contracts on the DOGE site that they said that they were saving money from, and then in fact weren't saving money. So now the number is $9 billion. So we've gone from $2 trillion in savings to currently only $9 billion. And there are 1,000 billion in $1 trillion, in case you're wondering. So we're a long way to go from DOGE reaching its targets. But what an idiot is the smartest and richest man in the world? Give me a break.
No, he's not. It's the second time in a week that DOGE had $3 billion from its wall of receipts due to errors. Remember that, to your point? 40%, over 1,000 of the contracts on the site last week were removed. It included like 5 of the 7 largest savings it claimed. So those are gone. DOGE's wall of receipts was full of errors from the start. It fused billions with millions a couple of times where they're like, we saved 8 billion today. And then they're like, no, it's 8 million. And then it came back as 8 billion when someone else questioned it, and then it's disappeared from the website. Not only that, it sounds like DOGE is in need of its own audit because
it might need an audit.
Rumors today that all the money, 9 to 10 billion that they say they've saved in real time, and that's it, 9 to 10 billion. I mean, it's not that much money when you're talking about the budget of a country like the United States of America. And it's all gone to Elon Musk related projects, 400 million for some military Teslas, apparently, another 1.2 billion for some kind of tunneling project or Mars project that I heard today, read that as well from an independent source that I can verify. So this looks like not only are they pretending to audit, but just creating all kinds of chaos. The fascinating story that I read today, and it might not surprise you, with the support that you're seeing from Trump to Putin, Elon Musk to Putin, talking about Zelensky being a war criminal, which is fucking crazy. Yeah. But apparently there's rumors that he's being investigated now for inserting Russian-born code into some of the work that he's doing behind the scenes for DOGE in different aspects of the United States cyber mainframe that controls everything. So
wait, say that again. There is Russian code that is being inserted into the US government mainframe by Elon Musk, written in Cyrillic.
That's what I read today. And you know what the funny part is that all the stumping for Russia and all the hatred for Zelensky and the fucking plank that both of these assholes are on, I don't doubt it.
I don't doubt it at all.
I don't, and I read that today and I'm like, oh my God, that makes fucking perfect sense to me. Like,
Yeah, it
perfect.
does. And it's why those AI, agents that they have crawling the U.S. infrastructure, the U.S. IT infrastructure are probably Russian made and Russian designed, and they're probably siphoning all that information off to Vladimir Putin, the Kremlin, so they can design their next stage attacks on America, because that is in fact what they are all about. And you know what's even more than that is our number 2 story, which is all about crypto. Yesterday, in the middle of all of this, they decided to announce that they are going to do a crypto reserve, which means basically throwing a whole bunch of crypto coin into a reserve, which means taking out a whole bunch of dollars. God knows where those dollars are going to go, but probably into someone else's pocket. And they're going to replace it with these digital currencies, these cryptocurrencies. All of this had a profound impact on they've been accused many times of running a pump and dump scheme, but this is what a pump and dump scheme looks like. This is what happened to the crypto. This is the price of Bitcoin yesterday. It went up from, I don't know what it was before, but it reached like a real peak up there of like 95 or something. And then it, since the weekend, since that announcement has been diffused a little bit, because people are saying, hang on, this is just a conference they're having. They're not really starting the crypto reserve. They're just teasing it. Then people have got through their senses, and we've seen the numbers decline. But that is a pump and dump scheme. Looking at that, it's just the way it is. They've basically pumped up the price of Bitcoin, and they're all profiting because they all probably sold crypto on high. They all own Bitcoin. Vladimir Putin owns Bitcoin. Musk owns Bitcoin. Trump owns Bitcoin. Sachs owns Bitcoin. Everybody gets rich except you, the American people, and they're just using the power of the presidency, the office of the presidency, to issue these tweets and press releases or truths or whatever, and it's driving up the price of crypto and then down again. And the average consumer, like you and me, if you own a Bitcoin, I don't, but if you do, you're getting killed in all of this, because you're no ways are you aware of all these market maneuvers before they are, as well or as soon as they are. And that is the tragedy of what is going to be crypto. They're going to pump up the price all the way, stick it into the crypto reserve in the United States, and then crash it. And who's going to be holding the can? The American people.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add, because you've got an understanding of this. It's so deep, and you've been working on this. You understand crypto. Who has most of it? Elon Musk, David Sachs, who's now the new crypto czar, self-appointed by Donald Trump, who owns stock in each one of those XRP, Solana, ADA crypto tokens. Like, he owns them. He owns the actual platform.
He owns the platform.
Yeah. So like, he owns how they're traded, how they get money. He owns all the transactions. He owns all of it. And he's Elon's best friend. Hosts a podcast called the All In Podcast. He's basically a Russian agent parading around as a celebrity in real time.
Yeah.
But what Trump is doing with this crypto executive order is he's using billions of taxpayer money to engage in the world's biggest crypto pump and dump, to your point. And it's for a select group of friends who shore up their digital assets. And then they want to turn those assets into the Federal Reserve. I shit you not. This is the truth. I tweeted about it today. And the interesting part of this, Zev, and I don't have much else to add other than this, is that Russia, North Korea, China, Sudan, all those pariah states are deeply invested in crypto and all of those platforms. And they use that digital cryptocurrency to get around sanctions, to move money illegally, transfer money for arms, weapons, nefarious deeds, drug dealing, that kind of shit. So what you literally just witnessed was a rug pull, as they say in the crypto industry. It's called a rugging, where someone lays out this rug, everybody jumps on the rug. It's like, oh, this is great, we're all rich. And then they yank the rug out. While you're investing, while you're standing on that rug, that investment, the people that put the rug out are literally stealing from your pockets. They're taking all the money that you put in, and then when you want to take it out, there's none left. It's all gone.
This is what they do. They're experts at this.
It's called a rugging. Get familiar with it. The Hot Tua girl actually made it really famous.
Rugging.
Yeah.
I learned a new term today.
Rug.
And number 1 on our list of the big stories of the day, well, this is an unusual top story, but I will say that of all these Zelensky statements that came out of support, one person who sort of shone right through all of this was Justin Trudeau, who is about to be replaced as the Liberal Party leader in Canada, having met today with the King about concerns about Donald Trump potential invasion of Canada with talk of the 51st state. It's now I don't know if it's buyer's remorse, seller's remorse, whatever it is. This guy's about to lose his prime ministership because of Russian propaganda and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and what have you. And goodbye to this great leader of Canada who's been a really great statesman. And how sad is that? Or not?
No, it's sad. I mean, hey, listen, I am not a fan of the first venue of Trudeau's prime ministerial reign over this country. I'm not. I'm a fan of some of the things he did. He called the COVID election. I didn't like. Far too interested in social issues than he was in the business of the country. I think you should balance both. He spent, he didn't invest. But he was a good leader. He was a good prime minister. In the last 2 years, he's been a great prime minister. He has sort of left all the bullshit behind, but the damage was done. And the damage was done in caucus. The damage was done with the Canadian people. I mean, it is evident in the polling that you see in Canada, right, Zeb, is that, he steps aside. You've got 4 people vying for his job right now, which will be decided on March 9th, which is in 6 days. And in just with him stepping aside, the Conservatives' 30-point lead is down to 0. In most polls, that Liberals are up again. So, and that's without a leader. So that speaks to a couple of things. One, it speaks to, the job that Russia did in vilifying him as a dictator, which he is not. Is he soft in some capacities? Yeah. Is he performative? For sure. He's a drama teacher. That's his background. It's what he does. But we had Trudeau fatigue, and the West hated Trudeau from his dad. That was 30, 40 years ago. We all know who Pierre Elliott Trudeau was and the middle finger he gave the people of Western Canada. So, I mean, it's complicated. There's a lot that goes into it, but we had Trudeau fatigue. So he steps aside. Now, the interesting part of that is the sacrifice that he made and the tour that he has been on over the past couple of months has been king-making. This is a man who today literally gave one of the most impassioned, measured, soft speeches I've ever heard about Vladimir Zelensky's effort, who Putin is, and what we should keep our eyes on as a democratic, free country of Canada and free countries in the world. So there's that. The other thing that he did, which I think is really fascinating, is he was able to be the only Western leader to be involved in that EU-NATO meeting and to be a leader in that EU-NATO meeting where sticking up for Canadian interests first happens with the example that you set. And Pierre Poilievre, his opponent, prior to him stepping down, and Mark Carney will win the race. Mark Carney will be the next prime minister of this country, and he will win another mandate, whether it's minority or majority. He will win. He gave Mark Carney the juice. He's been giving this country all that he can from the past, 2-3 months. Not only keep decency, the governing party in this country, because the Liberals are a decent people. The Progressive Conservatives, the Conservative Party of Canada, is MAGA North. It's Maple MAGA. It is a carbon copy of that. So the sacrifice that he's made, the tour that he's on, how hard he's working to keep Canada a free and sovereign country right now with other world leaders, not just to support Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainian people, but really because of what it means to Canadian sovereignty and national security. It gave me buyer's remorse, to your point. Like I said this earlier in the podcast, I was like, did we throw that guy overboard too fast? But we did. I'll tell you why, because Mark Carney is a pro's pro. Mark Carney is the former governor of the Bank of Canada. Mark Carney has a sterling reputation in political circles. Mark Carney knows everybody and everyone. Mark Carney can save a country or delete a country's economy. He's that good. And when you're heading into an economic, maybe military confrontation with the world's biggest superpower that happens to live underneath us, there is one person right now. I mean, there's lots of people that can rise to this occasion, but there's one person right now that Canada needs. And maybe it's Mark Carney's Churchill moment, but it's Mark Carney, and Justin Trudeau has made that possible. And right now he's running interference on behalf of this country, several of our allies. And I think we will come to regret, like a lot of different leaders, when you're like, oh, let's get rid of him. And then the next guy comes in and he's way worse. or the next party takes over and they're way worse, I think Canada is going to come to truly appreciate who Justin Trudeau was, specifically in the last couple of years of his prime ministerial time. I think we're also going to look back on what he's done over the past 2-3 years, specifically 2-3 months geopolitically. And I think we're going to look at it like that man unloaded the clip for this country and for free people around the world. And for that, I am forever grateful. I think he's done a great job recently. I really do.
Absolutely. He has. And, you know, what's been really great about the last few months, maybe years, is that there have been a new group of young leaders that has emerged in these European countries, which are really taking the global stage and are really challenging the old guard. And Justin Trudeau is one of those people whose career can really take him anywhere now. You know, there's a global stage for him to play on. He can be a peacemaker. He can be a negotiator. He can be, you know, any number of great roles in the world because he's so trusted, and Canada is trusted. And ultimately, he's been he's been able to be a really good foil for Donald Trump in just these last couple of months. And I think it's one of the reasons we're seeing Donald Trump's, economic performance being so abysmal right now. His ratings keep tanking. Is one of the reasons is Trudeau's very measured and successful response to the tariffs issue and the 51st state issue. I think, you know, we're going to see a lot more of Justin Trudeau once he's gone. But in the meantime, it's a little bit of buyer's remorse, but, you know, there's good stuff coming down the pike, as they say. And that is the number one story on the FiveStack today. Anything else you want to share, Dean?
No, not at all. Go Canada. Tariffs start tomorrow. Everybody get ready for a little bit of pain, but get ready to watch the United States absolutely roll uncontrollably down an economic hill.
Which we do not want. We do not want them to, Americans are not eager about the Canadian tariffs, and of course they're not. No one wants Americans to suffer at all, but there's a bit of suffering coming, and it's not just induced by Canada or Mexico. It's self-induced by Trump and these incredibly stupid tariffs that he's imposing on our biggest allies. I mean, it makes no sense for me for them to be doing something like this. It's a stupid policy. No one agrees with it. It's going to cost America a lot of money. It's going to increase everyone's monthly grocery bill. Why do it? Only if you want to just alienate your allies, which is really something that Vladimir Putin wants. It's not something that is in Donald Trump's interest or America's interest or anything else like that. All the other justification is just BS. It's never going to work like that. So anyhow, that's my take on that.
Dude, you know, one of the things, and I'll leave you with this, is one of the things that I read today. And I think a lot of people have to be prepared for this. I really do. And I'm not being sensational. I'm not that guy. You know me a little bit. I'm not, I don't pull the fire alarm and tell everybody to get out of the theater. It's not how I do things. Warren Buffett, who might be one of the most pragmatic people, well, not investors, people, pulled almost every liquid dollar he had out of the market recently. Okay.
Yeah. Tells you something.
There's that. And then today he came out and stunned me. And Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger stun me sometimes with the things that they say. And both of these guys are like, crypto's just like criminal currency. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
He said, tariffs are an act of war. Okay. Remember that, because that's exactly what these tariffs are. It is a pretext to a stronger response. It's challenging the mettle of a country. And that's what they're doing. And as they're challenging the mettle of our country, their greatest ally, Mexico, one of their greatest allies, as they are submitting us to these tariffs, which are literally an act of war, I want you to remember two words: national security executive orders. Actually, it's 4 words. National security executive order.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump has an executive order exemption as part of being president of the United States that says for any reason, he can dictate that an action by another country is an affront to the security and the best interest of American lives, and they can go to war. Today, Pete Hegseth basically said, we're going to take unilateral action against Mexico for working with cartels, the government working with cartels to ship drugs into Canada. That's what he said. Then today, they said the same thing about Canada, about the fentanyl issue. We do not ship fentanyl into the United States. Almost all the drugs that cross the border from Canada and the U.S. come from the U.S. into Canada. 60,000 illegal guns last year, millions of tons of illegal drugs, money that they push up here to send all over the world. We are like scot-free when it comes to any kind of drug issue into the United States. These are lies.
Mhm.
You don't remember the Gulf of Tonkin? Do you remember the Gulf of Tonkin?
I do not remember this all. What is the Gulf of Tonkin?
Yeah, the Vietnam War was predicated on the idea that American warships were attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin,
Okay.
which was a lie. It never happened. So they invent these national security issues as a pretext to war, a pretext to an invasion, a pretext to some kind of military action. And I'm not here to scare people, but I'm here to tell people, be aware of those signposts of a country that wants to invade other countries. I have no question in my mind that in the next, I would say 12 to 24 months, the United States is going to have some kind of military interaction in Mexico. And I have no question in my mind that if not before the midterms, depending on what happens in the midterms, that they're going to ratchet the same sort of rhetoric up about Canada, shipping fentanyl, killing millions of Americans, which is just this fucking crazy joke. And then, not giving them what they want in terms of oil, gas, electricity, food, lumber, aluminum, that being some kind of national security risk. So they have to take over Canada, but be very, very, very fucking mindful, because this is exactly what Trump is getting at. And anytime someone says these tariffs don't make any sense, that's because they don't.
Yeah.
That's because they're not about fentanyl. They're not about border crossings. They're not about subsidies or losing the trade war. It is about trying to get access to everything that we hold dear, which is our sovereignty, natural resources, and the pride of and the reputation of Canada. Don't think that they don't want our reputation. They've destroyed that country. So they want the reputation of another country coming in. So they're going to lie, cheat, and steal on their way. So anybody, be very, very careful when you have this conversation with people about fentanyl and borders. Not about fentanyl and borders. It's literally, if you read the signposts and you look at really smart people, it is a pretext to some kind of forcible takeover. And I need people to understand that today.
That is very much a Putin playbook. So it would not surprise me, to start some sort of a military confrontation is exactly what you do when you want to increase your poll results and your opinion polling. The other thing that the tariffs will do, just to extend this a little bit longer, is that it'll help him say that can afford some of these tax cuts he's giving the rich. It's going to help him, sort of pad the federal budget, because there's going to be more revenue coming in. But it's not really revenue. It's not really revenue. It's just a way to pad the government, because it also is going to create a lot of inflation on the other side, but that's going to take a little longer to develop. So that's the economic argument. You're absolutely right about their pretext for war, and the tariffs are war. That's a good message to leave everyone tonight. Thank you very much, Dean Blundell from crier.co. You should check out, and you should sign up for his newsletter there. And also check out It's Dean Blundell, the incredibly useful and brilliant feed that Dean does on X/Twitter, and also now on Substack. Find Dean there. I'm Zev Shalev from Narativ.org. Thank you so much for being here on the FiveStack tonight, and we shall see you next time.